Chris Wood. In the comments section of your Q&A number 102, a commenter posted a link to a video of a Scientologist, pro-Scientology man who was attempting to lampoon your efforts to expose the dark world of Scientology. What are your thoughts about this type of thing? I would like to point out that the rather crass man in the video employed all of the techniques and buzzwords that you've said Scientologists would use when attacking the church's detractors. My opinion about this subject is that it is a rather positive sign that you're having a negative effect on the Church of Scientology, or they see you as a threat. Either one of those things is a good thing on their own. Taken together, they make a promising combination. Yeah, you know, haters gonna hate. I made a video this last week sort of responding to, criticism I've received. And that was all very tongue-in-cheek and just sort of poking fun at it, and I was being completely goofy. I'm actually probably not as funny as I would have liked it to have been. I'm not really a comedian, but I'm really funny when I get high. That's when I'm really funny. Anyway, as far as this subject goes, some people were disappointed that I haven't addressed this more seriously, though, or more head-on. So let me go ahead and do so, but I'm not going to address the broad thing. I'm just going to address what I think is the root situation here, which is that I speak out against Scientology and I speak out against the Church of Scientology. There are people who make a differentiation between those two things. There is a subject of Scientology, which is they think is a valid, researched, workable philosophy that through its principles you can improve your existence and spiritual condition. Then there is the organization of Scientology, which is the Church of Scientology, and these people are careful to draw a distinction between those things. I have sort of given up on really drawing that distinction. I used to pay a lot of attention to those words, but I don't so much now, because for me, the subject of Scientology is invalid as a subject. It's presented as one thing when it's really something else. And the Church of Scientology as an organization is, of course, a corrupt organization, which is led from the top by somebody who does not, really have Scientology's best interest at heart, and is using it for personal aggrandizement, ego, and for financial gain. Hubbard, say what you will about the guy, and I've said plenty, was at least a true believer in the subject, and he was also mentally unbalanced, so there's that too. But he did truly believe that what he was doing was the right thing to do. That doesn't give him a pass on anything. It's just a statement of where his head was at. I don't think David Miscavige shares that passion or that vision. That's my opinion. I could be wrong about that. I believe from everything that we see that David Miscavige does that I think I'm right. So, okay, so that's the current state of the church and my opinion of it. And then there's the subject of Scientology, which I have said has some beneficial results for a certain percentage of people who use it at certain levels or on certain things. But I have said that it is more harmful than beneficial. Now, the argument being made against me is that there is good in Scientology, the subject of Scientology, and that good is not acknowledged by me enough, and that I should go out of my way to differentiate these two things, and that I should be saying that the benefits of Scientology are there and should be gotten, and that I'm not doing that for fear that I am taking a position that if I acknowledge any good in it, that I am somehow endorsing the subject or saying, hey, you should check it out. Well, that's true. I am not endorsing the subject. I'm not talking about the benefits of Scientology on purpose because I don't think it's a good thing. Now, the position against me on this is that it is a good thing. There are benefits to it. They haven't, the people who say these things, the independent Scientologists who are in opposition to me on this, have not given a ratio, but they seem to imply that it's sort of a 50-50 thing, like there's all these good things and they're really good, And then there's these bad things, and if if I speak just about the bad things, then I'm not talking about the really good things. But here's the thing. Those things that they think are really, really good, as far as I'm concerned, are not that good. They're just not that great. The TRs, the training routines, for example, is something that are put up on pedestals. They're so great. They are wonderful drills to improve your communication. I have said, and other people have said, that we first got into Scientology through the communications course, and that we got benefit from it. That I have, that some of my ability as a public speaker or communicator is due to those TRs. Well, there might be some truth to that. In fact, I think there's some truth to that, but it's a little bit of truth. It's not a lot. And I don't ever think I've tried to put out that I owe my speaking ability or language skills or communication skills solely to Scientology. And I've also taken great pains to say that any benefit that I got out of a Scientology communications course, I believe can be gotten from any communications course offered by almost any group anywhere. I don't think it requires sitting in a chair for hours on end staring at somebody else in order to improve your communication skills. And in fact, I believe that those drills are harmful to your mental processes. I believe that those put you into a hypnotic trance, a more suggestible state. And I think that post-hypnotic suggestion is used in Scientology, not because Scientologists know that's what they're doing, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that's what's happening. You sit down for hours on end and go into some sort of a trance state, staring at somebody, trying to be there in present time, comfortably confronting them without blinking, and or twitching or moving or doing anything. And your head goes to some pretty strange places, excuse me. Then and what I mean by post-hypnotic suggestions is, well, then you finish that and you do other coursework, or you go and talk to a registrar or other Scientologists, and they're like, isn't Scientology great? And you're like sitting there going, through this strange experience thinking, yeah, wow, yeah, I guess this is really great. And you start interpreting everything through these filters of what other people are telling you. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a psychoanalyst or anything, so I'm just really throwing out, sort of my own ideas on this, but that's what I think. I don't think that you need to have these drills. I don't think these drills are that valuable or that important, and I don't consider them the good parts about Scientology. I also don't think the philosophy of Scientology, that man's a spiritual being, he's been a near immortal being, as I've explained, a thetan. I don't believe in any of that anymore. So I don't look at that as anything that's inherently good. It's a view of how life is and how we get along in life, but it's not any more valid than Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or any other philosophy of life, including atheism. It's a belief system. It's based on faith. You can't prove the existence of a thetan any more than you can prove the existence of God. So these two, so this is not like, oh, it's so beneficial to believe this. It's not beneficial to believe that. I think actually that it causes, as I've explained in my Scientology and death video that I did recently, I think it creates a rather altered view of reality where you are not facing death and life on their own terms and with a realistic viewpoint. There are many, many other factors in Scientology that are not really that great, but they're pumped up, they're inflated and exaggerated into these great things. Looking up words in a dictionary, it's the be-all, end-all of study in Scientology. Well, that doesn't mean that now I'm not in Scientology anymore, that I don't use a dictionary. I got a great big one on my bookshelf. I use it all the time. But I don't sit there and look up every definition of every word that I have a question about and use them in sentences and then go into derivation and go track all that down and use all the Scientologies and techniques of that in order to fully clear a word. I don't do that. I just, I don't know what this word means here, and I go grab a dictionary, look it up. Good, I'm done. Now I understand what that said. That's not Scientology. That's what we've been using dictionaries for since the day they were invented. So I don't assign an exaggerated level of importance to looking up words in a dictionary. So these things that are put out by pro-Scientology people as so beneficial and so wonderful and unique to Scientology, I don't agree with. I don't think that any of those things are necessarily true or valid. That's my position. And for that, I am criticized and then now more recently made fun of. Okay, whatever. You know, that's my position on it. And I will be making later this year a series of videos breaking down all the different techniques or pieces of technology of Scientology piece by piece. I haven't gotten to that yet because I wanted to get the move done and I want to get settled in, and when I start that series, I want to go all the way through it because it's going to be a long one, like my Deconstructing Scientology series was. There's a lot to cover in that. And I will talk in that series about the benefits and the pros and the cons, right, of these different pieces of Scientology tech. So I'm not sitting here saying that there's no benefit, that nobody ever got anything out of it. And I believe that my position is a proportionally correct one. I guess I'm going to go down the Nazi rabbit hole to make an exaggerated example of something to demonstrate my point. You could talk about the benefits of Hitler's rise to power and the boost to the German economy, the creation of jobs, the various things that happened in 1920s Germany that were beneficial, and assign those things to the Nazi Party and to Hitler. And if you start making those arguments today, people are going to look at you a little funny. They're going to go, why are you talking about the benefits that Hitler brought to Germany? Because look at all of the horrible, awful things that he did and the fact that he brought about World War II, and millions and upon millions of people died as a result of what this man started. So sure, there were benefits. There were things that happened in Germany that you could look at in and of themselves and say those were good things. But they are so far outweighed by the bad that it's a disproportionate argument that makes it, because of its disproportionateness, it makes it invalid. It makes you wonder, why are you bringing that up in the first place? Sure, the Volkswagen was a good thing. It employed a lot of people making them. A lot of people drove around in them because they could afford them. Great. Now, let's talk about the millions of people who got killed, right? Now, that's an exaggerated example to demonstrate the proportionality logic of my argument about Scientology. I'm not making a false equivalency of Scientology to Nazis. I'm trying to demonstrate a point through analogy. And my analogy is that the proportion of damage that Scientology causes is so heavy compared to the almost nothingness of benefit that it brings that you just throw the whole thing out and be done with it. Okay? That's my argument. And so, so if people want to make fun of me about that, or say that I'm stupid or not a critical thinker, or that I don't engage, or that I'm not, don't talk about these things, well, now I'm doing it. Okay, and that's why. That's all the things that that's the position I have on that. So, now that that's been said and done, I don't plan on doing this again. I'm not here to debate other ex-Scientologists or critics of me or other people who have something to say about my work. I feel that my work stands on its own and speaks for itself, and that's why up until this week, I haven't really even gone into addressing any of this, because those guys aren't what I'm doing this for, and they don't really mean anything to me. So so I think I've pretty much done about as much as I'm going to do on that, and I got a lot more things to talk about that I think are a lot more constructive and interesting and educational and informative and entertaining. So there you go.